Hey everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and disembodied hands, Quindy, disembodied beard John, and no ears, Kuranico today. Oh, and Black Squirrel flipping her tail at us, apparently. Insulted because I've disrupted her sunbathing. Oh well. Sorry, Squirrel. Not sorry. Hello, everybody. Boop. It's a good day. Hey, Quindy. Look what I got. So, $5 PDF next month. I'll look at these. I'll run them through their paces. I'll tell you what I think. What they might be useful for. If they're, if they're fun. You feel half alive. Oh no. The plague. Hey, half alive is better than not alive. By the way, if you, so I have this bottle of Golden Fluid Acrylics burnt sienna that I got because I wanted to have some burnt sienna and see what it actually was equivalent to in Master Series. But yesterday I was working with some red, and I just put a little extra water in the red and put the bottle over the top, and it kept it good all night. So it kept it good for essentially 12 hours. So anybody who tells you you can't preserve paint in a well palette just hasn't, used their brain to come up with inventive ways to do so. So I was too lazy to get saran wrap. I didn't want to saran wrap the whole palette for one well. And I'm like, well, let's see if this works. So yeah, so we have a bright red sitting here. We don't necessarily need to use it, but feel fully alive soon, please. All right, so I kind of want to maybe do freehand today. Kind of in the mood. Kind of in a good mood today. Have lots of energy. Let's see if we can find our reference photo. Because when doing freehand, I want to draw upon things that are present in the model, if I can, designs and motifs. So he essentially has little scroll work. We can get very close. There we go. So, kind of traditional European scroll work, actually, all things considered, with the little curly cues, the little floral curly cues, as it were. And we could try to do that. I'd want to make it a little bit of a broader border than it is here. Here it's very narrow, and Wayne Reynolds can get away with that because he's doing a painting, and so he actually has, this was painted a lot larger than it is here. So you can do that tiny little filigree. And maybe if you're Derek Schubert, you can also do it, but I think I'd like to make it a little bigger so that we can actually see it. That is my goal. More it. It derived from it. I guess I have to put moth green in my box, except I have to redo my whole box, guys. I have to redo my box. My box of paints needs a complete revamp. And sadly, it is nowhere near the weekend. The weekend is definitely the time I would prefer to do such a thing when I have the ability. All right, let's grab our usual cloudy gray and our carbon gray. Well, good. The world needs more Stephen King interpretation things that are actually good instead of, the vast majority of the early days of Stephen King interpretation media being arguably terrible. Although I guess you like terrible too, Quindy, so, it may be all the same to you. That's right, I was using a little bit of stone gray in this, just to separate it out a bit from the surrounds. So grab my stone gray. There we go. So we're using these colors. 3 drops of the cloudy gray, 1 drop of the stone gray, and 1 drop of the carbon. Three seasons of prequels. Oh, that's pretty cool. Interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. So going further and further into the past. That's a very cool way to do it, because arguably maybe, knowledge has been lost about it, and so they can, in that way, they can reveal to the audience things that earlier, that happened with earlier generations, and still not spoiler. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's clever. Alrighty. When I was a teenager, Stephen King was one of my favorite authors. I wanted to write as well as him someday. Like, that was my goal as a writer. Like, I remember writing that on on my New Year's Eve retrospective journal entry. I forget which book I just finished. I think it was 4 Seasons that I just finished reading. And it convinced me that he was one of the best American writers of the modern day. And I was just like, if I can write half as good as this guy someday, I'm going to be a happy person. It is interesting because I like it for all the wrong reasons. The book does get terribly scary. Yes, but the reason I like it is that I feel like Stephen King has that amazing way of recapturing, like, the feel of his childhood, the feel of what it meant to be a kid in that day and age, which is very different from the experience of kids now. And when I read it, I totally flash back to my own childhood in rural Wisconsin, like in small town Wisconsin, which is very similar to small town Maine. And so it's like, but I feel like he like captures just that whole feel. Like, you feel it. You feel like you're there. You understand. Like, he's just so good at that. He's so good at that. And I love that part. I love that part of his writing. I love it. It's what makes his writing scary, because if it wasn't so real, you wouldn't be as scared. But yeah, it's just, and you connect with his characters because of that, because they make sense in that entire thing. Like, you really get I think a really good sense. And when you're writing kids like that, I think you've got to have that. You've got to have that grounding, that feel, that breath of life in the environment that they're growing up in, right, to inform their personalities. So, anyway, that's my deep thoughts on Stephen King and his writing and why I love him so much. I don't read him a lot these days, just because I tend to like a little bit non-scary stuff these days. But every once in a while, I'll pick something up. The last one I read was The Wind Through the Keyhole, and it became, like, it is, if Stephen King wrote East of the Sun, I feel like that's it, because it was funny, because I was working on, East of the Sun and West of the Moon at the time I read that book, and the fact that he's got a nested story in there, when, a lot of people had told me it was a bad idea to do nested stories, it pretty much gave me permission to put the stories into East of the Sun and West of the Moon. Like, I'm like, if Stephen King can do this and make this book, and I love this book, then I'm just going to do it, and to heck with the naysayers. Yeah, exactly. It's all the kids. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. It is better, right? Yes. It's not on the same level. Like, that's just one of his superpowers, and I love it. And very few writers, I think, can match him on that. All right, so I've got my gray, and because I put carbon in there, it does darken it a little bit, but it also makes it a bit higher coverage. Now, I do want to put a little bit more, although we want to use extra flow improver, so we want to use a drop of that. So I'm using my water flow improver mix, which is pretty much just like the Reaper flow improver straight out of the bottle. So hopefully that won't kill our coverage as much. We can always do white underpainting, but with NMM silver, there's really no excuse for not having coverage. So you're dealing with black and white. You're dealing with higher coverage pigments. So hey, Polly, how's it going? And Daffodil. Yeah, props to Tim Curry. Yeah, but even, like, I don't feel like R.L. Stine didn't have the depth of writing. Like, Stephen King's, like, childhood is, like, real, and it's in your face in Stephen King's, like, in it. It's, sure people write lots of good books for kids, but I don't feel like, and they were scary books for kids, but, like, R.L. Stine you can read, it's like popcorn fiction. Stephen King you read, and you're, like, diving into the deep end of immersion. It's the difference. Some people enjoy it, some people don't. Some people would much rather read a lighter work, a lighter scary work, right? And for kids, if you're looking for, I mean, I think that it suffers there. I feel like adults aren't, this is difficult to say. Like, I'm not sure how to describe how I feel. I feel like some scary kids for books are like scary, but they're pulling punches. Stephen King pulls no punches, which is why his books are for adults, right? And why his books could be really scary for a kid. Plus, like, reading level's probably a bit high. But I mean, I was reading them at I read Firestarter and The Shining probably at age 12, maybe 11. Because Dad owned them. But yeah, it's I think there's a difference between modern scary children's fiction and like what you can do, you know, with writing from an adult perspective, but like capturing that incredible nostalgia and feel of the environment. All right, so I think I'm going to start about here. Let me pull in. So instead of making it really skinny, I'm going to give myself like probably double the room that that Wayne does in his original artwork. And first I'm going to sketch in the border. I'm just going to try to keep it at the distance I need it from the edge. Yeah, right. Exactly, Laura. Just not the same kind of thing, right? It's, you know, that's true. Yeah, it's true, Turgeon. It's true. Although, as a kid, I also enjoyed Stephen King's portrayal of kids. Like, obviously I wasn't reading his books at age 7, but I definitely was, like, not a teenager when I started reading them. Because by the time I was a teenager, I was, like, well into it. The Shining was one of my favorite books when I was a kid. But the movie was too scary for me to watch as a kid. Oh yeah, well, I was reading at a very high level for my age. But I'm not the only kid who does, right? Like, it's interesting because I've, like, talked to, you know, recently I talked to Brian Pearsall when I was in Texas. You know, we went out to dinner with his wife and the kids, and he mentioned his boys are, like, they're 5 and they're reading, like, one of them is reading way ahead of his current age. You read it when you were 12-ish. Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty common if you're a reader, if you're a kid. Like, you start looking at adult books, you graduate out of kids' books pretty early. I mean, maybe you still read some, Maybe you read YA, maybe you go, but maybe, a lot of the time I read everything I get my hands on, but I graduated to adult fiction pretty darn early. Like, there were some kids' books I loved and still love, but a lot of YA was just romance stuff when I was, like, a kid, except for, like, obviously Judy Blume was one of the better options, but still about relationships and such. Whereas I preferred, like, fantasy adventure and horror and stuff. I read quite a bit of horror when I was a kid. But for me, visual media are always more scary than print media, because print media, I'm controlling it. I can just take my eyes off the page. I can skim ahead. I'm somewhat in control of how I ingest the story, whereas on a movie or TV screen, then the control is the actor or the director, and the only way I can control it is by actually leaving the room and skipping part of the story. All right, now, did he have that on the inside also? Let's take a look. Nope, inside of the cape is not free-handed. Just double checking. Yeah, I liked the Count of Monte Cristo too. It's interesting how many kids are drawn to that story. I need to remix my my Orchid Purple and Clear Red mixture here for the cape, because I need to do touch-ups. Which means I have to figure out where I stuffed my Orchid Purple, which is probably actually in the box. Orchid Purple, are you in the box? Now I'm going to have to sit here fumbling around trying to find my Orchid Purple. I'm going to be very annoyed if it went into the other room. I know I have more of it. Urgh! Alright. Papa, it's very annoying. Maybe I have it here in my box. I do. Haha! Hey, Kodiak. We watched a lot of Masterpiece Theater when I was a kid, so I read some classic fiction. Hey, Slayer. Alright, I want to mix this up. So it's about a 4-to-1. So 4 drops of Orchid Purple, which is very similar to Necromancer Purple, and I can't remember the other one it's really close to. So we're going to mix this up. I might even be able to mix it up in my existing puddle of red. Maybe I'll try that. Let's just mix it in. If it fails, it fails. But at least I'll have used the red that I kept good all night. Because it's definitely not going to stay good now that I've uncovered my palette. Yeah, definitely not enough. There was too much red in there. That's alright. I'll take a little bit of it over and tune it till I get the purple I want. That's more like it. Getting closer. Yeah, that's about right, actually. I think that's about right. I just want it for touch-ups, so. Morning, Shadow Raven. So I found a new favorite cozy fantasy series, actually. If anyone's interested, I can share. I don't know how many of you have gotten into reading cozy fantasy. It's cool. It's like the best done cozy fantasy that I've found. So if you're interested, I mean, and it has like, it has sad things and danger, but it also has like awesome found family stuff. So you should read it. It's Tea Princess, but it's less princessy than you might think. It's princessy if princessy is being a very dysfunctional family. But this is a great book, and it's the first book. You could read it. You could decide if you're in for it, if you're there for it. It has a lot of stuff about like marginalized populations being, on the. It's actually very mature in its grasp of politics. It's really well done, and the writing's amazing. The writing's really good. I just heard bad things about the relationships in that Gilded, so I never picked it up. Like there's this modern trend, it seems, toward really, really kind of physically dysfunctional relationships and like violence, and I'm not a big fan. I'm not really there for it, so I did not read Akatar, despite its other things that it may do well. Yeah, I don't think there's a coup of tea. Hold on, let me grab it. A coup of tea, but a coup of tea. Hold on. There. This is the name. Like I said, very cleverly, very very realistic look at like politics and the realities of like, like a melting pot kind of situation. But also very cozy. Like things turn out well with great effort on the part of the heroes. The found family members are all really cool. There's corruption, but evil does go down in the end, and good prevails. And then everything gets more complicated, of course. But yeah, highly recommend. And I'm on the third book now. I devoured the first and second book on my plane rides to and from Texas. Yeah, that's what I've heard, Gilded. Yeah, I mean, I could glaze over that stuff, but then I've given that writer more money, and they've got it more than enough already. I really don't support it. I really feel like it's giving young girls the wrong signals. I just, in my heart, I really do, and so I can't support it. It's just something I'm not going to read. But you're free to enjoy it yourself. I absolutely see how with the rest of it is really good, you'd glaze over. If the world building is great, you'd glaze over the rest of the stuff and just enjoy the world building. Totally valid. Totally valid. But these days, like, I'm pretty sensitive to what our, younger population of girls is fed as far as what's good and right and all that. So that's cool. Yeah, that's totally a change up. Oh, no problem. No problem, Turgeon. Yeah, it's really, I find it really, really enjoyable. I hope you like it. And there is a tiny tea spirit who is a dragon. Tell Kuro she needs to read it. Actually, maybe I'll just put it in my newsletter. I'll just put it in my newsletter, then Kuro will get it. Because I need to send out a new newsletter anyway. An author newsletter. If y'all haven't joined my mailing list for that, but you're interested in Anne's writing and book news, you can sign up on my website, which is aebeckerwrites.com. And you get a free novella about what happened when Valaman and Enset first met, the princess in the underways, for signing up. But, you know, that's if you really want to know about, yeah, like get more writing updates and are more interested in that kind of thing. If you're not, then you're fine. I thought about a mailing list for Painting Big, but the fact is that most of you are on Patreon, especially if you're free members on Patreon, like you kind of get updates every once in a while anyway via email. So, all right, let's touch this up. Let's see if my red is totally gone to pieces. There's a very transparent purple, so. Yeah, as far as Terry Pratchett, if you're just going to get him into a single book, like I think Small Gods is probably my favorite, but a lot of people like that's always a hotly debated. Like if you're trying to get people into Terry Pratchett, which book do you give them? Otherwise, you know, I picked up Small Gods because I liked Good Omens, which of course was a Neil Gaiman and Pratchett, you know, collab, but yeah, Night Watch and Small Gods are yeah, those are the two that I usually hear. If you're going to read one Terry Pratchett book, read one of those. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My mixture of purple, it actually matches perfectly, and it's touching up my line work pretty well. Excellent. Excellent. So okay, now I need my pattern again, and we're going to talk about how we're going to do it. Let's grab my images. There we are. All right. So this is pretty random. He's not really sticking exactly. Like he's doing the swoopy things, and mostly he's got the little curly cues with the extra leaves coming off, but they're not always just coming off of the interior. Sometimes they're coming off the exterior. So really this is very freeform. Hello there, Kara. Yeah, it's not burgundy wine, despite what you may think. It's actually orchid purple plus clear red. Mort is still your favorite. Of course it is, Kuro. But yeah, so pretty much whenever he's doing the general swoops, though, he's doing multiple lines. So I think I'm going to just kind of go with that, with this one shape right here. I'm going to focus in, try to pick, if you're trying to do a design like this and you want to get the kind of the gist of it, but you don't want to like do it like bit by bit because it's all different, try to find one section that you like the look of and that you can riff off of. So we're going to do this. We're going to do a swoop, and we're going to do the extra little bits coming off the swoop, and we're going to do the curlicue, and then maybe we'll just repeat it. That's probably the easy way to do it. And we'll see how much room we actually have. You use other colors sometimes. Yeah, I know. I'm sure. How are you today, Kara? David and I have discovered we are absolutely opposed in the great debate between CMYK and red, yellow, blue. So, okay, up and... Okay, I won't have too much room here. Alright, so I'm just trying to do a little line. Luckily, you guys can see this. I need to actually bring it up a little bit more. I decided to do a kind of a womb, and then a wee. There we go. We'll go up. I need it up closer. Then I need to curve it down into a little nubbin. Technically, there's an extra little bit here. There's a little bit that comes off here. And this may not work really well because it's so tiny. I may end up just using the swoops. I'm not going to be able to do the tiny leaves because there's just no room. David holds that magenta, cyan, and yellow is the better primary triad. And of course, we all know how I feel about the word better. So I vehemently argued that that was not the case. The point that and this all comes from that Color and Light book that I'm reading, because I was reading it last night and they were talking about the debate. And the book takes the you can tell that it favors the magenta, cyan, yellow, but then it also says specifically what I've always said, which is you need both. In order to be able to mix the largest gamut of colors, you need both the red, yellow, blue, and the cyan, magenta, and yellow. Because the yellow in the cyan, magenta, yellow is a very green shade yellow, and the yellow in the red, yellow, blue, yellow is more orange. So pretty much I'm just going to like fill in. For fancy borders, you really just are trying to fill in the space with interesting shapes. So I'm going to actually make this a little bit, now that I know I can't get my full range. So David's like, but cyan, magenta, you can't mix really good purples without magenta. And I'm like, yeah, but you can't mix really good oranges without a true red. And he's like, purples are more important. And I'm like, that's true, but still not the whole case. Still not giving way on this. But yeah, so there's a lot of arguments like throughout art, but I really feel like you need both. For pigment mixing, because the thing is, this book is talking about both digital painting and pigment painting. They're different animals, and for sure, when you're digitally painting, it makes sense to think in the CYM, because you're painting with light. A lot of your tools simulate pigment painting, but when it comes down to it, you're still painting with light. You're using RGB or CMYK. So, whoa, things are drying out fast today. It was hot. It was 80 yesterday. It felt like summer. Challenge him to make his own paint line. He doesn't have the patience. One of the first things I did for David before we were dating is I asked him if he wanted to come into the paint department. And I've done this with various painters through the years. Asked them if they want to come into the paint department and create a new color with me. And so with David, he wanted a salmon. So highly ironic that, the color he picks actually could not be reached with magenta and cyan. I didn't point that out. But yeah, David is the reason that Lotus Orange exists. But he doesn't have the patience to, push it. He would be happy once he got the color, but he doesn't have the patience to push the pigment and mess with it to get better coverage and stuff like that. David could not produce his own paint line. Though, I was thinking about this, Kara, because they also point out, I love this book so much, guys, but they talk about pointillism. The point is that if you put colors in small enough dots or lines next to each other, you're going to get a blended effect to the eye anyway once you get to a certain size, right? Once you reduce the size to a certain point, you're going to get a blended appearance. So, and you'll only be able to see that it's not really blended if you get really close. But I would argue that pointillism absolutely takes, as much or more talent to do as smooth blending. So I mean, this is why there's room for a painterly approach in miniature painting, right? That in textures. I mean, it's like there's room in traditional art for it, so there should be room for it in miniature painting. Yeah, pretty much, Quindy. Oh, Haunting Purple. There you go. Goth Marine. Now if I was still in the paint department, I would immediately make Goth Marine and put it out as a Reaper Con color. It would be one of those secret colors that you had to come and ask for. So again, doing my little curlicue. Now here I made my curls a little bit nicer, so I'm essentially giving myself a little more room to work. And I'm just going to fill the space. I want to keep about the same amount of negative space. Just to get a cool kind of weavy, viney kind of texture in here. And we're not doing any highlights or shadows yet. We're going to wait for that until we have all of this blocked in. I mean, Goth Girl set for Quindy is pretty much like if I did this. Like, this is the goth set, guys. Make no mistake. I'm looking forward to opening it later. I'm in such a good mood today because I have so much new paint to try. I also got an artist line of tube paints that I've really been looking forward to. Since they're canceling my scale color artist, I'm like, F it, I'm just going to start using tube paints. And one of the things I want to do is to make, I want to do definitely like a PDF. I want to do a thing for the Patreon on how to use tube paints for miniature painting. Because it's not as hard as you think it is, and it opens up a lot of options for you. I mean, obviously, the paints that are closest to what we use are going to be things like the golden fluid acrylics, but there's so much more out there. So I will at some point. I'll probably do it for $5. I may start using a lot more tube paints mixed into my MSPs in the future. Because now that the universe has rejected my scale color artist paints, I'm out now to show people, to get people into painting with tube paints. Tube paints come and go in the miniature painting scene. Some people use them a lot, but they've never really caught on. Yeah, Payne's Gray. Yeah, I tried to do a Payne's Gray. I had one mixed, but I never really finalized it. There was never anywhere to put it in the line, and Ron doesn't like artist color names anymore, so. So after every time I do the curvy shape, I'm putting an extra curlicue around it, and then I'm using that to start the next curly shape. So the curly shape goes up, down, up, and curls over. So it's kind of a double bump. And then we're just, essentially, that's our starting shape, and then we cap it off at one end, and we make the next one. I think I have enough room here. Bump, down. Ooh, and I can make a nice big... I might actually be able to do the little leaves on this one. So at the corners, maybe I'll do the little leaves. And then I can do, from this corner, I can cap it like I did before. And then start another one. So yeah, this design works out pretty well. I should have spaced it out. Like, it turns out my brain kind of covered for me. Like, it was like, oh, just do it like this. And it's entirely possible that I would end up only being able to do half of a shape down here. And that's fine. If it had ended up that way, we just would have adapted. But as it turned out, my brain parsed it to 4 perfect segments because my brain. Yeah. No, gray liner is not Payne's Gray. Yeah, Scale Color is discontinuing the tube paint line, which is the one I use. I don't like their other paints, so. Oh, so much stuff. So much stuff. There we go. All right. But yeah, and I really do want to do kind of the series breaking down. Maybe I'll take that book, because I want to do a series that kind of breaks down the basics of color and light. I would like to, as far as miniature painting. Kind of taking every lesson and kind of talking about it. I think that'll be my next YouTube series. I have one more video for OSL. Maybe two if it takes too long, but I'll probably just do one long video for it. And then I can start breaking down the color and light book. I think that would be super fun. It would be really informative. I don't know that there's anything else out there on the web doing it. Stuff like that. Oh no, scale color, like scale 75 paint has been in dropper bottles long before the tube paint line launched. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Quindy and Anne. Great minds. Quindy and I have now been working together for so long that we can just like anticipate each other's responses. I probably need to I'm going to put a drop of water in. When the temperatures get hotter, inevitably you'll find that you need to add more water earlier to your paint if you're working in a well palette like I do. I did find my wet palette, by the way, guys. That's nice. I was sincerely not wanting to order another one. Yeah, Laura, no problem. You don't have to know about other paint lines. Some of us like to play around with the stuff. I just like to stay on top of the industry. Like, I like to keep on top of what other lines are doing. Because I like to be able to talk knowledgeably about those other lines and how they differ from MSP. A little bit tight there, so if I get a little bit globular, then I can go and use my purple to touch it up. But yeah, so I have a lot of things I want to do. Obviously, once the Reaper Top Secret becomes not a secret, I need to do a bunch of that for the YouTube. And that specifically has to go on the YouTube because I want it out there in the public. Like, I'm sick of other people talking about MSPs on YouTube who don't have near the knowledge base that I do. So it's time, once like the secret goes secret, I want to seriously do some MSP education. Yeah, it's like the market has become even more saturated. Like, it's been saturated for a while. When Reaper put out MSP, it was already saturated, and since then a ton of those lines have gone under. And that was true back in the day. There were plenty of lines that popped up and then died. Because paint is not inexpensive to produce, and you don't make a lot of margin. So when you really start selling not a lot of it, you just have to question whether it's worth continuing to put resources in. I mean, I'm pretty fast at producing videos, seriously. But ideally, essentially, I don't need like to have it immediately per se, and it's almost impossible. Like I want to know how the secret comes out. I want to see because there's a chance that Reaper just lets out part of the secret, you know. So I kind of got to be careful about that. So I need to see once Reaper says anything about the top secret, then I can move forward. And I probably have a video done within a couple days, depending on when it hits. But the best kept secret of all time, yes. But I mean, I'm not going to be able to do more than one a week as far as videos go. I'm pretty sure. Like I've tried to do that output before and it was really tiring, but I think it needs to happen. I want to make sure to build hype for the secret, and I want to get information out on YouTube so when people search, they will find it. And my YouTube channel is decent enough. Like it's a decent size, and I've been doing it for long enough, and I have enough subscribers that I feel like if I start putting out this content, it will go into people's like search metrics. It's the advantage of having a well-entrenched YouTube channel that I've never completely given up on. Like, right, I've kept doing content for it, so. Kara. But yeah, so my life is going to get a lot busier when the secret hits. When the top secret becomes not a secret anymore. So I also have little things I need to like work with Kara on, apparently. Top secret things. So we've got little scrollies, and some of our scrollies are a little thicker. This is where I can take my purple, if I see like that one of my lines is a bit more blobulous, like this one right here. I can take my purple that I mixed up and just kind of thin it down. It's much easier to thin it down this way. Sometimes it can be a challenge to paint a really thin line, but you can always take your negative space color and use it to thin down the line just a little bit. You guys just want to know everything all at once. The thing is, yeah, well, maybe I'll film one secret. I don't know. The problem right now is I just need to get this Patreon month done because I've got so much stuff coming in it, and I'm behind because of the Reaper trip. So right now I don't have brainwaves to even think about it, but I'll try to keep in touch with Ron, and actually I should drop Ron a message. Anyway, I have to bug him about my shirts. Quindy gets her shirt, guys, but it's now time for a new shirt saga with your host, Ron Hawkins. Yes, work with you willingly on purpose. Here, let's text Ron right now, like, about the polo shirts. Let's do it. I want to do it. Wanted to do a quick check-in. Did the polo shirts get ordered? It's gonna be sad if Ron can't get me a polo shirt after all I've done for him. Sound familiar, Quindy? I still haven't gotten, I have done an awful lot of work for Ron over the course of the last bit of time. That's good that you're getting a handle on it, Twisted Oma. Rana was trying to get shirts to someone, yes. Oh, good. Yeah, let us know, Kara, if you created a cool thing. You totally should let us know. I can always use more t-shirts. Yeah. No response from... But yeah, understanding how much pressure Ron is under. I took a lot off of his shoulders recently for some of this stuff, the top secret stuff that you'll find out about eventually. So hopefully it's helping. But he owes me shirts, damn it. He owes me 2 polo shirts. Not even a single shirt. I went for broke. I wanted 2 of them. Because I don't do laundry every week. Oh, that's right. I was gonna try to do plant bits. Plant bits. All right, where do I want to do those plant bits? The plant bits probably be better out here, but I don't think I have room. Let's see. Yeah, no, secrets have to stay secret until they're not going to be secrets anymore, unless there's a sneak peek possible. But for a lot of things, like you guys got a sneak peek of the golden maggots, so you can't complain. Or you can complain because it's every human's like God-given right, but we don't have to listen. I'm gonna do little tiny dots. To just switch it up a little bit here. I know two shirts is gonna like take 4 years. I know, right? But I have 2 now. Damn it! If you only ordered me 1, I'm gonna pout at him. I almost honestly just asked him for permission to use the Great Reaper graphics so I could just get my own made, and that probably would have been easier. All right, so I'm trying to do little dots. I don't like how they're turning out, so I'm going to. What am I going to do? I don't like my little dots. I don't like them. Sam, I am. I'm going to take them out of here. I'm going to curl this, give them more room here. So you can see how, even though this color is pretty transparent, because the gray is the same shade, more or less, it's just a little shade lighter. It actually looks lighter on camera than it is in person. But the orchid purple, even though it doesn't have tons of coverage, it still covers fine over that gray. All right, now I'm going to make these little leaves a little bit bigger and cooler. That looks a little better. I have to take that one out of there. I like for the corner design to be a little bit different, even if I'm doing a border like this. Unless there's just really like no way to fit it in. I know, kittens, forced labor kittens. I mean, they're underage and everything. Yeah, okay, that's better. I'm going to put a dot in here. And a curl. There, just making it a little bit different. I need a little bit more space between that line and the others, so I need to block it in. Then we can just go back to our regular shapes, but there needs to be just a little bit more room in here. Yeah, so today I have to finish my $5 PDF, but I also get to play with paints, so I'm pretty happy about that. And then Bryce is in town right now, so we may go to dinner with him tonight. David was handling the arrangements on that, which means that, probably nothing is arranged. I should probably just tag Bryce in a text and go, so did you and David come to any conclusions? There we go. I just wanted to make everything a little more crisp here. Okay, now we can put our line on and get... Yeah, I know. Yeah, I get to see Bryce. I do. I've realized that, like, Kubla Khan is this weekend, so if I actually want to enter Lava Dragon, I actually have to finish Lava Dragon. I still have to do that back corner, grind it down, get him on a plinth, touch him up. David told me after he got back from Las Vegas that he thought Verko's Vault might be hiring a museum director. And I'm like, can I do that remotely? Because that sounds like a job I would be perfect at. Like, totally my skill set. 100% my skill set. It was a special event that he was invited to, invitation only. It was a special event class over the weekend. It wasn't really a class, it was just a special event that some painters were invited to, about 20 of them, I think, to come and paint together and finish a single model in 2 days, Twisted Oma. So, special event, invitation only. And apparently there were 2 women there, so that makes me happy. Go, go, girls. Alright, so now we're back to doing our normal little curly cues. So, little bump. Big bump. I'm going to turn the model around so that I get a good angle. Not all of it, actually, Turgeon. David said there were painters of various levels there. So some of the painters who were not like as well known as like David and Matt DiPietro and Ben Cantor may have been locals. I'm not sure. But there were definitely painters of different levels. Like there were no really intro painters, right? No, but I'd say everybody was at least intermediate. A solid intermediate level. I'm not sure how they invited people. I think I need to add more water to my gray. So humidity is like, I think 30 or 40% today, so it's definitely sucking the water out of my paint fast. But yeah, it kind of makes me almost sad that I actually did find David and got married and settled down and all that, because if I was still like, if I had not met David, if I had just like moved and like, gone freelance and just did this sort of thing, like I would be in a position to like move to Las Vegas and like try to work for them. That would be really cool. Definitely a neat job. But I'm not, so. The best I could do is like travel once a month. And something tells me they'll want somebody who can actually be on site. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Michael is 100% right. That's what Reaper did in the artist conferences, the original ones. Mix of solid to expert. Most of the solid people were like local or people that Ron was already kind of utilizing. So they're probably people that that the Virgo's owner, Gary, has worked with for painted figures, and that's how they all got invited. Cool. Sounds good, Val. Sounds like you got your schedule to work out. Yeah, those artist conferences were really cool. David said this one, to be fair, Julie, this one with the Virgos people was not as nice as the ones that we would have with Reaper because there was a time constraint, right? So when we used to do those for Reaper, there wasn't like, unless, you know, if you came and Ron was like, I want 3 models by the end of this, right? I guess that's a time constraint. But you weren't trying to do like something start to finish in those 2 days, which I think makes a little bit of a difference. So I feel like our original artist conferences were a lot more relaxed. But then this sounded a little, but it could have also just been the way that David felt during it, that he felt there was pressure. Yes, those artist conferences are treasured memories and experiences. It's true. That's kind of what it used to be, Kara. Would be Ron putting it on the company card. He had to tell Ed eventually, though. That's too sharp. Dave would kill us. Yes, it's true. Dave would kill us, and that's the sad truth. Yep, it's not Ron. You have to be afraid of a Reaper. Everybody knows. It's like Dave's office is like right there at the door that opens into the company. He's like Cerberus. He's like Reaper's Cerberus. Guardian of the gates to the underworld. That's kind of hard when you're at Reaper and you've used Ron's credit card, Kara. You're currently within earshot of Dave's... Yeah. Are you in that front office, Michael? Where Paxton and Lauren and everybody are? Yeah. Cool. Well, you're in good company then. Yeah, you and Harper. Yep. All right, now I need to get my paints here. We've got a fold. So our first little bump there is going to be in the fold. And then we're out of the fold. We're making progress. Now, as we get close to here, where parts of the cloak totally dip in, you can use your brain power to try to figure out where the design would be going, or you could just choose an area of the design you like to do and just do it on this smaller fold. You don't have to like make it realistic. Like, as long as you're obviously repeating the pattern, you're fine. And in fact, you should just repeat the main part of the pattern just on this little fold. Hello, Hyper. Yes, yes, a wide variety of different kinds and colors of Post-its. It is absolutely true. Sadly, no video evidence won't save you if the evidence is on Ron's credit card statement. Which I'm sure Dave reviews very tightly. So I ran out of room to do some of the stuff here. And I can add a little bit of an extra loop there. So I can also switch it up a little bit if I want to, and it'll still look good. So I think it's pretty funny that this morning I'm like, yay, I got my John Blanche paints, yay. And David's like, you hate Army Painter. I'm like, no, I haven't tried Army Painter, for ages, and I like their Fanatic Metallics. And he's like, it's kind of funny that I'm the one who only uses MSP. Yeah, Kuro, I wish you could make it to ReaperCon someday too. Though, the thing is, like I said, I like to keep up with the paint industry. I still feel like I have a horse in that race, so double since I had to go down to Reaper and, do some more work of top secret nature. So I like to know what else is out there. David doesn't have to worry about that. He's just going to paint with what he wants to paint. And technically he does use other stuff. He also uses acrylic inks. He uses the FW De La Rowney, stuff like that. I'm still waiting for my Chimera Velvets. Do you hear that, universe? I didn't even order any miniatures. All I want is paint, damn it. Alright, so we're going to take it, and I'm kind of just fading it out as it goes down into that crease, and that's just fine. You don't have to try to do it all, poke it all the way down there, because this is going to be shadowed anyway. You're still waiting for yours too, Quindy? Sad. We're both sad together. Yeah, you'll have to tell me if you like the P3, Val. It's, like I said, I'm very sus on the finish of those. Although now, I bet I can talk about one thing I reformulated when I was down there. So you guys know that I did some stuff in the paint department. I was helping with training and stuff like that, and I did do a reformulation that I'm pretty proud of, although I don't think it's going to be in production yet. It'll go into effect with the next batch, I bet. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. And I'll let you know. But especially if you use a lot of different paint lines, I did redo the matte additive, the anti-shine additive. It is now a lot more fluid, and you can use it without just using a tiny bit. So it will actually come out in a droplet now. And you can use a drop with probably 4 or 5 drops of paint, and it'll matte down your paint. So if you are using a line like the new P3 or like tube paint, which notoriously does not have real matte, is mostly satin, you can use the matte additive to take down the shine in those things. As with the old matte additive, you want to shake it like crazy so that the little agitator balls are totally off at the bottom. You'll be able to see them because it's a mostly transparent product. So let's see if I can get them to show up. Yeah. A little hard because they're scooching around, but yeah, here we go. There, you see the little one there. So you'll be able to see them. So shake well, but it will work now. It used to just dry out in the bottle because it was too thick. So I did a reform on it. And it now should work as intended, and it should work great. And there is no other, as Rhonda was keen to remind me when I asked her for her input on like paints in general for like top secret project. She was quick to like say that matte additive needs to stay in because no other company on the planet currently gives you what we give you. Matte mediums are not the same. You didn't order miniatures until the last minute? Oh, no. Oh, yeah? Their Chimera Hyper Bunny went through? Yeah, shipping verifications. Yeah. I'm not a satin fan. I like it. I like the Reaper finish. I like the eggshell a little bit better. But that's just me. I do like that now between the Chimera, which I probably should get another bottle of their satin medium. Between the Chimera and the new matte additive reformulated for Reaper, we now in this hobby have the capability to tune every paint we have to the exact finish we want, which is fantastic if you think about it. Yeah, Matt, about them. It's like you can do eco-friendly, but you gotta have somebody experienced to do like the actual paint line development then. If the eco people listen to feedback and they're able to like to make those pivots, but you limit yourself. I mean, just like we limit ourselves with our metallics through wanting them to be family friendly and non-toxic. If you're trying to make an entire, like, a very eco-friendly line, you're going to be limited even more, right? Oh, hey, CNOT with the Mega Raid. Thank you, CNOT. Hey, how are you? We're talking about paint lines. Here we go, guys. We're doing some freehand today, some wiggly freehand. I'm basing it roughly on the freehand that was done on the concept art, but the concept art is very... like, it's got tiny, because it was done, on a canvas, and so he had a lot more room to do this kind of thing. So I kind of adopted the pattern in general, and we've been blocking it in on our tiny little figure here. As you can see, little tiny figure. It is a 28 millimeter, which these days usually means more like a 32 or 35 millimeter. Let's see how tall this actually is. Yeah, about 34. So 28 millimeters is just the new 34, or 34 millimeters is just the new 28 millimeters. Sometimes 40 millimeters is the new 28 millimeters. I'm going to laugh when our minis all become close to like 50 millimeters and we're still calling them 28s or gaming scale. Mind work. David just wanted to put in an order for mind work. He may have done it. I couldn't decide what I wanted, so I... There are a couple models I was looking at that I really like, but I'm not feeling them right this instant, so I'd rather not pull the trigger until I'm feeling them a little bit more. So here we're just going to take our main design here on this one fold. We're not going to bother to say, oh, well, you know, if we lose this much cloth, then this is where the design would actually be. No, we're not going to do that. We're totally not going to do that. We're just going to take the main part of our design and replicate it here on this bulge of cloak. And then we're going to do just a tiny little bit here. See, not small footprint. It's a mega footprint. It's just like Sinat does not sculpt tiny things. He sculpts mega things. To a great soundtrack. Always. Pretty chill. So I'm just going to fill in my various areas here to get the design to look right or be close. And then we'll be able to go through, after we do this, then we're going to go through and shade and highlight. We're going to do that more in general, in line with how the actual surfaces are working as far as light and shadow. So we can do shading extremely broadly. Highlight's going to take a little bit more effort because we're going to have to hit all of these little spangly bits again to highlight them with white. Still no Archon Caves pledge. Yeah, we're talking about Kickstarters too that we've backed and still haven't gotten our stuff from. Like, I really want my Chimera acrylic inks, and like I have not like even gotten a shipping notification, so I'm like sag. You know, though, I should check I should check things like my promo folder and stuff. I haven't done that. Like, I was assuming it would show up in my main box. Maybe that was my mistake. I mean, other things from that company have shown up in my main box, though, so I have to think that it wouldn't have gotten shunted into a different box. Maybe I'm just being optimistic. Oh, then I don't even want to try them, Hyper. Like, I'm not even willing to get... If they don't have decent adhesion and if they feel tacky, that's not good. Like... Then I don't even need to try them. Like, because if you can spot those problems, I'm going to spot those problems and a bunch of more. Yeah. Like, what you said just essentially tells me that I don't even want to try them. Yeah. And the problem is that when you say things like, oh, this happens, but only in some colors... then it's like, well, it kind of gives me doubts as to like how much QC or testing went on. Others rave about them. Yeah, I wanted to reform the matting additives so that yeah, it could be used with things like tube paints, which are notorious for not... and I count the golden fluid acrylics as tube paints. I mean, they're just pretty much tube paints in a more fluid base, but they have the same sheen. Get a little bit and get some in there, and then we'll go through and do some shadows. That's probably all we'll have time for today is the shadows, since we'll only have another 10 minutes or so on stream. Yeah, I don't know, Hyper. We'll see. Like, if you drop off anything, drop off white and red. Don't drop off anything else. I just won't use it. I don't know. Depending on what I'm doing at ReaperCon, I might not have time to really look at them anyway, so it really depends. Maybe just stop by and ask if I have the time. If I don't have the time, I don't have the time. Because we all know how I get kind of slammed at ReaperCon. Give me the name of the line, Hyper. What's the name of that eco-friendly line? then they have a problem with pigment load, most likely. They probably are overloading their base. It's possible. They may not realize that there's a cap. They should. But it's also possible that whoever is selling them that base had told them a cap that isn't necessarily applicable depending on what you're using. I guess the question is, are these people actually like doing all the mixing like in-house? Do they have a chemist background? Are they Bear Cavalry? All right. Let me just look them up on my phone. All right. Bear Cavalry paints. All right, I've opened the thing to look at it. They have a lot of their website needs help, man. Don't they know that moving graphics are totally the 80s? And their colors are bad. And their reviews are like... Alright. I mean, I guess you can have an olivey green site with bright red buttons, but my soul hurts. Yes, it's not a great website, not a lot of info. The people they're quoting are not actually, accredited, are not, super well-known mini painters. Yeah. I like the thought behind what they're doing, but maybe they need to, I don't know. I'll have to try the product. I don't want to give an opinion without... I can give an opinion on their website, which is that it needs help. But other than that... Okay, he's made a paint lab in his garage. Okay, so he is like me when I first got into mixing paints at Reaper. There's a lot to learn. Although if he's got a chemistry background, he should, The thing is he also a painter? This is the thing. This is the thing. I don't want to, toot my horn here, guys, but when you have someone in charge of your paint line who is a high-end painter, who uses paint every day, who understands what painters want from paint, and who has put the time in to learn the chemistry, about pigment load, about pigment grind, about, just about all the factors that are going to affect the miniature paint, the different types of resins, what effects you can get from them, and spends the time working with a supplier that gives you high quality ingredients, which I assume he can get, because he's got a chemistry background. One assumes he's working with a decent supplier. But when you've got all of that together, that's when you're at your best, right? So you can do it if you've got a partner. Say if you've got a tight partnership with somebody who is a great mini painter. You want somebody who can really put the paint through its paces. And that person is helping inform you as you formulate your paints. Then you can get what you've got with me. But it's still going to be a pretty big learning curve. Right. Dan's a painter, but is Dan a really good painter? Is he an intermediate painter? Is he an army painter? There's differences, right? And each one is going to inform the paint a different way. I'm just saying, for one thing, though, I do want to say kudos to those guys for actually doing the mixing in-house. It's expensive, and, Reaper, that's why everybody else outsources it. Everybody else just makes colors and hands them off to an actual paint company. So kudos to these people. Let me actually call them their actual name. Bear Cavalry. Kudos, major kudos to Bear Cavalry for actually having somebody who does have a chemistry background and who is willing to mix this stuff from the ground up. It makes a big difference, and it's really cool to have somebody else doing what I'm doing. It really is, and like, I guess that's what I kind of was looking for as far as the statement I was trying to make is it's really specialized, and you need a bunch of different skill sets, I guess, right? Right, so that means that probably the paint is more going to be crafted toward the army painter side because, well, then that's fine because the majority of painters out there are painting for D&D or armies, right? So that is the majority of the market, although the display painter market gets bigger every year. All right, so I'm mixing up some gray liner. Just getting it a little bit more fluid. I want it a little more see-through. I'm going to pop actually a drop of brush on sealer into it. I just think that give Bear Cavalry time, and if they listen to feedback and they act upon it, right? And they continue learning and they iterate, then maybe they could come up with something really special. So my allergies are kicking in now. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. Paint formulation alone is a complicated thing. It is. That would only give you the basics. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is iteration. Right. Industry experience doesn't mean this industry, though. Like, which industry, right? That's the thing. As Pitt just pointed out, chemistry has a whole bunch of disciplines in it, right? And paint and coatings, chemistry even, like... But I like, if you look at cuttlefish is a great example. Cuttlefish colors like have a very unique base. They're super high coverage out of the bottle. They've got a good finish out of the bottle. But because the painter who created them, who's also a paint chemist, isn't asking the paint to do the stuff that I'm asking it to do. His paint definitely suffers when you have to add water or you want like a super thin application or, you know, like, so you can be an expert paint chemist and still not nail a product that will work across the miniature painting industry is kind of my point. I mean, I didn't at first. Like, I at least knew what target I was aiming for. But not until, like, I think my paints got better as I moved, like, as the line grew bigger. And definitely by Bones. Like, I think that Bones, I nailed what I was trying to do. But it took me 20 years, you know, or 15 years, let's say. Not 20, 15. It's just 17 working at Reaper. So about 15 years of paint development. For me to really... like, understand my tools, to have gotten new tools. I think, yeah, okay. I'm gonna see if my gray liner is just gonna work. I'm just gonna brush it over the shadows to darken down my silver. And I can also just brush it right over the purple, which I've already done a little bit of shading on, because the gray is just going to further bring down that purple. So it's not going to clash. It's just going to look like it's another layer of shadow. So you can, when you're doing this kind of thing, it's very easy to shade. You just you're brushing it literally over the whole surface. Here I want to look at lighting a little bit. There's going to be a dark area here because it's vertical. So it's not flaring out as much. It's not catching the light as much. Going to flare out here, then it's going to drop down again here. A little bit less though. So shading, you can see how the shadows are appearing here. And I'm just brushing it over that area. I'm going to keep a little bit light up here. And that brings in that feel of shadow and highlight. So now when we come back, we can add lighter gray and white highlights to make these little bits shimmer and look cool. That'll be our next goal. But as you can see, shading is very easy on this kind of thing. I mean, Hyper, but if you don't give that feedback, he's never gonna, maybe somebody who, I don't know, it's up to you. It could be, like you say, it could be user error. You could wait and experiment a bit more or see more people, talking about the paint and seeing how its real reception is. When a new paint line comes out, a lot of times people are trying to find good things to say about it. And then when you give it a little time, people are going to be more critical. They're going to be more honest in general once it's out there. Maybe I'll get a couple and just do them for, test them for my parameters and do it for $5 TVF. But I think I'm going to have so much for the $5 PDFs coming up that I'm not looking for yet another paint line. I already have to do this John Blanche and probably the tube paint that I'm working with right now too, so. So yeah, so a lot of content coming up in my future anyway, so I don't know that I have enough to spare for this paint line. I'm probably going to wait and see if it gets any traction. If I hear people start talking about Bear Cavalry other than you, then I'll consider popping it onto a PDF. But usually I need in order for me to do a PDF on a paint line, I need more than one person to mention it. I need to hear buzz about it, because then I know there's probably a lot of people out there who are curious about it. Then it makes sense for me to do the paint line PDF. Yeah, well. Yeah. Gen Con should hopefully get them some more product awareness. But yeah, right now I don't have the time. But I'll keep them in mind. I'll keep my ear out for them. Yeah, it is very difficult for a small operation. Because you're doing everything. Yeah, you're doing everything. But anyway, thanks guys. Thanks for coming along on our little journey here of freehand. I just decided I was freehandy today, so we've got at least that going on. We still need to highlight this red, purpley red. And maybe we'll do that next time when we do the freehand. And then we just got a bunch of little stuff to fiddly bits plus the arm. I want to get this stuff painted before I pop the arm on, and then we can actually work on the arm. I'll probably work on the arm in place, because a lot of the backside of the arm is just going to be pressed up against all this stuff. You're not actually going to see it, and a base coat is enough at that point. Yeah, thanks everybody. So tomorrow, hopefully, I'm going to bake my little staff topper for Bird, and we'll probably do some green work on that staff topper on the other side to make it match, and to bring out the details of the staff topper. So we'll do green work, We may end up starting a new figure if the green work doesn't take very long. Or I could start working on his base a bit, which we're going to do very sandstone, very kind of glazed colors. I have to think about it. Guys. But Bird is back tomorrow. We're finishing so many models in a row. It's kind of crazy. Oh, I think that's right. We start on we were replacing Bird with this. We started on our underpainting on our Tiefling, or sorry, Hellborn. That's right. Yeah, because Kidde. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So that's where we're at. So we'll probably do the green stuff, and then we'll work on her. Probably the skin tones, since I did the underpainting, the Brunel underpainting first. All right, so that's what we got for tomorrow. We are good. Thanks so much, everybody, and I will see you all later. Quindy, thank you as always for being my mod, and yeah, have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.